Hello everybody and welcome to Contest Dynamics Part 3. What I thought we'd do in today's installment of this is discuss a little bit some of the score variants that may exist from a local competition to a regional championship and then to world championships, and how that kind of may manifest itself a little bit just because of the composition of those events and the pool of adjudicators that may be working those different events. So let's start first with local event and a regional event and how those may vary just a little bit. Local events, what I think we see primarily are groups that are competing in a local circuit against a handful of competitors that may be in their same class, and typically evaluated by local adjudicators, people that live locally, that work in that same area, and maybe get a chance to evaluate a group a number of times over the course of the season. This is hugely valuable and beneficial because that adjudicator is going to be able to give you different insight than maybe a WGI adjudicator. As they get to view you a number of times over the course of the season, they can talk about how you're growing, how you're progressing, and can really give you some feedback as the season unfolds. Where they may be a little bit limited is in having a broad perspective and kind of context of what that paradigm might look like outside your own backyard. And so I think when we see a lot of groups that will compete at a local event and maybe score at a certain area or break a certain threshold, and then maybe attend the WGI Regional Championship and experience a lower score, there are a couple of things that may factor into that. We do have one philosophy and one system for WGI that I know has been embraced and is used by the vast majority of local circuits nationwide, and I think that's fantastic for our activity at large. One of the things that the WGI panel of adjudicators will do is, first of all, they are the best of the best in the world at their craft and this particular activity. They also have extensive experience evaluating indoor percussion competitions and the marching arts in general, and then also spend a lot of time working with philosophy for our activity. So they know the sheets and the considerations on those sheets incredibly well, and spend a lot of time honing their craft and developing great, thorough understanding of the philosophy, the adjudication philosophy for WGI at large. And that may be a very different set of experience with the considerations and the sheets and the philosophical points than local adjudicators that aren't exposed to the same training sessions and don't have the same degree of experience in the activity. So automatically we're dealing with two different sets of evaluators with different degrees of experience and different exposures in this activity, and that's where we may see a lot of that variance. When you go to a regional, I think one of the great things that you get is you're attending a regional and you're going to get feedback from a panel of all WGI adjudicators. So even if your local show you have a couple of national level adjudicators that come in, that's great and fantastic. One of the things you're guaranteed at the WGI event is you're going to have all three of your adjudicators with that level of experience and as part of the active WGI roster. This is going to give you slightly different feedback. It's not going to give you the same metric you might get at a local show where you can see your growth from week to week, and an adjudicator that can give you feedback and talk about how much you've improved in the last 2 weeks. But you will get an adjudicator that's got a very broad perspective in this activity. They will be able to evaluate your performance and assess a number, assess a box and a neighborhood in that box based on their broad experience. They may have just judged a show in another state last week in a completely different region of the country the week before that, and so what they're going to bring to bear at that event is their broad experience of evaluating that particular paradigm all across the country. And so your number, while not directly comparable because you're at a different event than those other ones, it will at least be influenced by what that adjudicator has seen over the course of their season. So that's one of the ways that we may see numbers be radically different at a regional than you would at a local event. It doesn't mean that you were better or worse. It doesn't mean that the philosophy changed or the sheets changed. It's just that the application of those things may be a little bit different, and the broad perspective and understanding of trends in the activity and how a particular paradigm may be taking shape across the country may be vastly different from week to week, time to time. The other area where scores vary quite a bit, and a lot of people ask me this question, is going from regionals to world championships. It would hold that expectations would hold that we've got a WGI panel of adjudicators working a regional. Let's say it's the last weekend of the season, and then a couple weeks later I'm at World Championships. I would, since I'm getting WGI roster feedback in both of those weeks, hopefully my score is going to be at least in the same ballpark, hopefully a little bit better than it was at the regional. And some people will then arrive at World Championships and their score will go down just a little bit. And I think that there's a lot of factors at play there, and we can almost eliminate the adjudication factor in the pool of adjudication for a second, and now we can just start to talk about raw contest dynamics. So let's back up to the local contest first. At your local event, you may be going head-to-head with a couple of other groups that are also in your same class, in your same paradigm. You then go to attend a regional event, and now instead of 2 or 3, now we may double the number of groups that you're competing against. And they may be coming from different circuits and different areas outside of just your normal local circuit. It's going to have much more regional influence. So you may now be competing against other groups that you don't see on a regular basis, and they may be evolving the activity very differently in their backyard, and there may be different trends taking hold in a certain place, and it's all of a sudden now you're being compared head-to-head to those other groups. That's going to influence the score that you receive quite a bit. Your relativity to those other competitors, the spreads that are created between them, is going to change your ultimate score, your bottom line number, quite a bit. Now let's go from the regional event to the World Championship. So let's say I scored an 87 at a regional a couple weeks before World Championship. So I'm mid-box 4, maybe almost high box 4. I'm right on that cusp, but a mid-box 4 number with my 87. I now go to WGI World Championships, and now instead of doubling the number of groups that I'm competing against, I may be tripling it, quadrupling it even, because the classes at World Championships are the best of the best of the best of that paradigm anywhere in the world, all competing head-to-head. It goes without saying that at World Championships, there's going to be a lot of really good, really fantastic groups. There may be a lot of groups that are all box 4 ensembles. They are all achieving all of the considerations in box 4, and all of a sudden now, rather than 4 groups that are in that box at a regional, maybe we've got 10 groups. Maybe we have 20 groups. Maybe we have 30 groups spread across a couple of different rounds that all meet the box 4 criteria, and we have essentially 10 numbers from an 80 to an 89 to fit everybody in there. 19 if you want to double it for all of the 0.5s that we're going to have in that particular space. So that's a maximum of if an adjudicator used every single number and was trying not to tie anybody, everybody would have to fit in there, and we only have so many numbers available to us. So here's what's going to happen. 5 groups go on. They're all mid-box 4 scores, and maybe comparatively you are not as strong as some of those other ones. Well, everybody's going to get a mid-box 4 score, but now yours has been pushed down to the lower section of the middle of box 4. So all of a sudden that 87 from a week ago is now maybe an 84, maybe it's even an 83. That's still the same indication. It's still mid-box 4 level of achievement. Now the depth of that class, the quality of your competitors has increased, and when we go to start doing the ranking and the rating process, we're still able to assess your performance as an 84 or as a mid-box 4 score, but it's not able to be quite so high because there are so many others that are also in that same neighborhood. So really the activity, an 87 is not stuck on an 87. It's not etched in stone anywhere. It is an assessment of mid-box 4, meeting box 4 criteria, likely in the middle of that box. And 83 is the same thing. It's a box 4 score, likely in the middle of that box. And those two numbers, while it seems like they're 4 points off from each other, that's not all that uncommon and odd, especially when you factor in the contest dynamics, especially when you attend a World Championships event and all of a sudden you're stacked, 20 deep with other like-skilled and proficient ensembles. Now we're going to have a contest, and we're going to have the most intense and difficult contest of the whole entire season, and that's going to factor into the final score that we receive. So an important thing for us to understand as the educators and as competitors, for us to understand that the evaluation system is just that. It's a method by which we try to evaluate the groups. The numbers aren't etched in stone. It's a fluid system. It's hopefully designed to give you some indications about your true level of achievement at any one point, but that those scores are going to fluctuate from week to week. They're going to fluctuate based on all the things we've talked about so far, performance order and the venue and the performance of the day. They're also going to fluctuate based on who's in your class, how many groups are in your class, what order did those groups perform in, because at the end of the day, there may just not be enough numbers to go around without having a 10-way tie for one particular place, and we know that in the activity what we're looking to do is make decisions between all of those things. All right, I hope this information has been helpful not only for you, but also something for you to share with your students. The better they understand the system, the better they understand the way that they're evaluated and what those numbers do mean and what they also don't mean at the same time, the more successfully they're going to be able to navigate the expectations that are placed on them, and then the different thresholds and metrics that you can use to chart your success and hopefully use to recognize when you've reached a milestone or when you've been highly successful with your season. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today, and I look forward to talking with you again down the road.